Well, the transfer portal mess continues. And for Alabama, not good news yesterday when it was announced that Jaylen Mbakwe was leaving, and even some private messages were even posted about him going to possibly Ole Miss. Who knows? And also Emmanuel Henderson out of town. That's the fourth wide receiver. But Bama with Isaiah Horton coming from Miami visiting, and could be a easy slam dunk for the Tide. And they also got Danny Lewis to withdraw from the transfer portal. Wow. I mean, this is getting so strange when you talk about who's coming and who's going. But this is where college football is. We're going to talk about that right here on the Bama Tailgate YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. Thumbs up, everybody. That's a way of saying roll Tide through thick and thin, man. Yay, Alabama. Let's go. All right, guys, thanks for hanging out with us. Roll Tide, Mick Gillespie here at Broadcaster Mick, and it is great to see all of you guys as we hang out and talk about Alabama. And gave the first round of tickets away, and congratulations. It was one of those, hey, how about I love tonic fuel and Hinder, and here's the reason why. But everybody that sent in a message asking, we'll do something else for the second group of tickets, and that's on December 28th at Pearl River Resort. So that'll be a lot of fun, and there's tickets available too. Silver Star Convention Center. It's a really fun place. So we'll talk about that later on in the show. Now, the news today is basically all of us keeping an eye on the transfer portal. And it's been so weird, just kind of the way that things have gone. So do you want the good news first or you want the bad news first? All right, let's start with the bad news first. Jaylen Mbakwe to transfer. He was one of my favorite Alabama players. It is what it is, man. Freshman cornerback, going to leave Alabama. And then him and somebody else, like I got the messages, hey, I'm leaving for my family. And, some of the players maybe even making it sound like, that they're not, they don't like the coaches. Maybe it's not about money, who knows, but I hate to see Mbakwe leave because he was so good, man. Played in 11 of Alabama's 12 games. He was part of the Tide's cornerback rotation early, 15 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 2 breakups. He's going to have a great career. And he's a player from Clay Chalkville that I just liked, man. I think he's a smart guy. He was the 16th best overall recruit and the number 2 cornerback and the number 3 player out of Alabama, according to On3. And he picked Alabama over everybody, and now he's going somewhere else. And like I said, it could be Ole Miss, could be I've heard Notre Dame. I don't know whenever they announce it, but it doesn't really matter to me. Once you leave Alabama, I could care less. I just worry that the NIL situation at Alabama isn't good. And I knew that this, and I've talked about this on here, and some of you guys don't like it when I say this, but Nick Saban was very hesitant to go all in on the NIL stuff. I know this firsthand. I talked to people that when he was there, he was hard to deal with and didn't want to do it. And I get it, man. I mean, who would have thought that this is what college football would have turned into, right? So it is what it is. And now we've got to get that NIL up, or this is going to continue to happen, and losing Mbakwe, losing Devontae Smith this week, a lot of guys from that secondary. That's where Alabama was really trounced last year when Saban retired. So who knows? And is there an issue with the coaches? Jaheim Otis made it seem like, he didn't get along with the defensive coaches, and maybe that's why he transferred. Like, you're not going to get along with everybody every time. I thought that Kane Womack did a pretty good job this year. And I feel like with Kalen DeBoer, it's trying to figure out how to make this thing work and dealing with personalities. And these aren't guys that he recruited. He came in and tried to make them comfortable. Who knows? I don't know what the deal is, but I hate to see this, but it's just the way that it is. And every team's dealing with this, like everybody is. We just hadn't really had it like this with Saban, but we're losing some of our best young players, and that's no good. Now, the other thing, and the reason why I keep telling you guys about the NIL money is that you can do the same thing to them. You can go and pluck their best players, right? Last year it was Caleb Downs and Isaiah Bond, that were bought out of their Alabama, and if you're Alabama, and you're paying these guys and you're giving them free room and board and you're paying for their tuition and you're basically going out there and teaching them football, you got to be frustrated. But that's the whole problem across the entire spectrum of college football. You can get into that. And we were talking about it yesterday. I mean, you got to embrace it, and it stinks, but that's the way it is. So that was a tough one. And that was bad news. And then obviously Emmanuel Henderson hit the portal. So he's the fourth wide receiver to leave. So good luck to him. I really didn't see a whole lot of him. I mean, he was on the field, but it wasn't open a lot. All right, now let's talk about the guys that are staying. And I probably should have done this first. And I want to start with this. Hey, I'm back out of the portal. Danny Lewis. I left, but now I'm coming back. And this is one of those positions. My buddy Clint Lamb, who I do shows with on Cover Crimson, was like, I don't know why Danny Lewis would even want to leave. I mean, that he's going to play. I mean, he's right there now as a guy who, we're going out and looking at tight ends because, he's going to leave. He needs to stick around. So he decided to withdraw from the portal, probably a good move for him. He's going to be someone that's going to play, and he'll be, needed early on. And then the big one was Isaiah Horton from Miami. And I mean, this is someone that Alabama's in the mix for. He's a redshirt sophomore. And after he spent 3 years at Miami, now the 6'4", 200-pound pass catcher is coming to maybe Tuscaloosa. And a lot of people feel like he's going to end up at Alabama. Had over 56 catches last year, over 600 yards receiving, had an average of over 11 yards per catch. I mean, he's a good player. And this is someone that Miami's going to hate to lose, right? And what they say is that he is from the Murfreesboro area and wants to get closer to being at home. Miami was awful far away. So, a lot of the people reported this on 3. We always give them credit because we work there and we like those guys. But I mean, everybody's kind of throwing this stuff out there that Horton's going to be a guy that is we're expecting to come to Alabama. Now, Alabama's got, some issues now at the secondary, and they're going to have to figure out how to keep their star players. And I mean, look, I know that some of these guys are going to leave, but we're not accustomed to seeing our best players leave. Now, that happened last year with Caleb Downs. I wouldn't call Isaiah Bond one of their best players, but he was good. Amari Niblack transferred to sit on the bench. I mean, you never see Texas. You never see the guy doing anything, and he was playing a lot at Alabama. So, who knows, whatever the deal is. The NIL, the collective having money to spend, however Alabama's going to do it, I'm just telling you guys, as much as you don't want to hear this, it matters. It matters with the way that things are set up right now. And with no rules, you can come in and buy a roster. You can come in and buy players. Ohio State did it, and we'll see how it pays off. They spent $20 million on the roster. Going out and buying the best players. Alabama could do the same thing. And I know it's kind of like, Saban did it with hard work and, basically being the best coach ever and teaching. Now you can just do it with dollars, but we've got to figure out a way to get that NIL collective up, or Bama's going to keep sliding backwards. And I've heard people say, well, Kalen DeBoer, when he was at Washington, he could go out and get players that were kind of under the radar, and then, kind of with scouting. And I agree with that. Scouting's a big part of it. But the problem is that you develop these guys, you play this freshman the whole year, and now he's going to go play somewhere for 3 years. And he's an in-state guy. And he's I think one of the smartest players that Alabama's had. This guy even has a Bama podcast that he's, leaving now. So the other problem that you have is you're him, and then you hear about somebody else's deal, and then you hear about somebody else's deal. Well, I'm not getting as much money as this guy, so I'm going to leave. Don't think that stuff doesn't go on. So bottom line is this. Collective's got to get better. it's got to be, it's just got to get better. We got to be more creative. We got to get more money in there. And it may be more than doing some speeches here and there and selling some t-shirts. I mean, we're going to have to figure out how to really get behind this thing and do it. And maybe it's some way to have a subscription service. I don't know. I'm not saying I have all the answers. I'm just telling you guys, I don't want to start losing to everybody again. I went through that with the Shula days, and it's no fun. So, or maybe college football eventually could come up with some kind of set of rules on this, or maybe they go back to just using amateur athletes. How about that idea? Hey, we're not going to do this anymore. We're going to pay everybody. It's an amateur game. And, so I don't know. But the bottom line is this, is that it's a tough loss for Alabama to lose Mbakwe. And I'm curious to see how Jaylen Mbakwe and his staff taking some shots, the defensive staff taking some shots with some of these guys leaving, how they're going to respond to it. Because it's a big one. And it's not just big loss, but it's just the perception doesn't look great either. So, anyway, well, congratulations to Wes Moss. He won our 4 complimentary tickets to see Hinder Tonic Fuel at Silver Star Convention Center, Saturday, December 28th, 2024. I've got this exact same thing twice. So somebody else can win this too. But it comes with 2 rooms at Golden Moon Casino, buffets and tickets. It's a great deal. So he can take some of his buddies with him to have a great time and and have just a blast at Silver Star Casino. Doing the whole concert thing. And at 90s, he said he loves 90s rock. I do too. I tell you what, I bring his name up all the time because obviously we miss him. But Big Elmo was the biggest 90s fan. As a matter of fact, he was playing like 90s rock. They played it at his funeral. It was just so him, like, stuff that he liked, I guess. For a guy that loved rock music like him, this was like the thing. And he met a lot of these singers and stuff. So, but it's fun. The seating's good in there. The acoustics are good. And then you get done, you get to go into the casino and have a good time there. So we appreciate everyone at Pearl River Resort again for being a great partner of the show. And remind you to that if you didn't get tickets, you can buy them, and they're not that expensive. And then it's an easy ride, fun night. Go over there and see Tonic and Hinder and Fuel December 28th. All right, final thing I want to say: holidays are here. These are my Daniel Moores. Boom, there's one right there. That's that one's called Restoring Order. And then I've got Sweet 16. That's with Coker on it, and Unrivaled. And, I don't know. What's this one? Oh, Crimson Dynasty. I love them. You can use that promo code Bama Tailgate, 20% off, newlifeart.com. Take advantage of it, man. Do it. Just throw it in there. But don't forget that when you put, words you hear about us from, right, and you put Bama Tailgate, you got to put Bama Tailgate in the, in the promo code at the end when you're checking out to get the 20% off. But you get 20% off the classics. Take advantage of that. Guys, have a great day. The sky is not falling, even though it kind of feels like that with this transfer portal. I'm sure Jaylen Mbakwe and his staff have a game plan, and then maybe we've got the best fan base in college football. Maybe we figure out a way to support these guys a little bit. And that's why I wore my camo hat today, because we got a battle. We got a fight going on right now. They're trying to come in there and buy our players away. Let's do something about it. All right. Talk to you guys soon. And roll Tide.